What's up, everybody? I'm Tim.
And I'm Tori.
And this is the Stuck Together podcast.
Finally.
Back again.
Back at it again after quite the break. An unplanned break. Plot twist, I got sick again.
Yep. And we had the holidays.
Yes, the holidays, Christmas, New Year's. Oh, yeah, and life's just been we've got some job stuff and just not this job, other jobs, and just it's been quite the time, quite the kickoff to a new year, but
yeah,
we've been doing good, and I'm healthy again.
Yep.
Thankfully.
Yep.
Hopefully for longer this time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, we've been just finally getting back into the swing of things and finally being able to get back into recording. But of course, now that we finally are back to recording and got a movie for this week and everything, I'm leaving for a work trip that's going to last 2 weeks. And then we're going to go on our vacation after that.
Yeah.
So probably the next time you guys could see an episode after this one's going to be February 19th.
Yeah. We were super excited to get back, and then realized, oh wait, yeah, Tim's gonna be out of town, and then we're taking a trip, so yeah, that's the next date that we'll have one out. And yeah, just a really weird time. If we would have thought about, well, we couldn't have even backlogged because I couldn't, like, I was sick for a while, so I was like, we could have backlogged some, but nah, it's all good.
So we're sorry,
yeah.
But we're still not, we're still doing it. It just might not be every week. We're just going to kind of get to them when we can get to them. And, because life's pretty crazy right now. So, and like we said before, these take a lot of time to do. So, it's not the craziest thing in the world, but it takes a lot. Each week of getting a podcast ready and up for the next week is like not a week's worth necessarily, but it's a lot of work to schedule in. So
yeah, and in the future, we might change our schedule to like kind of accommodate that and everything, but for right now, this will be the last one until February 19th, so about a month.
Yep, about a month. Did you want to catch anybody up on anything? I don't think we've talked since Christmas, so
yeah, I mean, yeah, so much of it was me getting sick. But I mean, other stuff is like job related that I don't really want to talk about on the podcast. So
no, that's fine.
It's pretty much like taken up my whole mental capacity recently. But there's hope on the horizon, so there might be some changes. There might be, we'll just have to see. But, I'm sure as a lot of you guys out there know, like when something is going like pretty bad in an area of your life, it's just really hard to focus on a lot of other things. And so, yeah, I think me and Tim both have just been trying to kind of like keep up with the rest of, life in the meantime with stress and everything. And yeah, just general, like, yeah, I don't know. We had to take Scout to the vet, but overall she's okay. I meant to set up the litter box. I guess I can do that a little later.
Yeah, we can do it a little later.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Sorry. It's kind of random, but yeah, it probably, as you can tell, I mean, we're both a little, I'm burnt out. I'm 110% burnt out. So not from the podcast, just other stuff. So yeah, it's been a little hard to manage everything recently. And yeah, definitely being sick 2 times in a row within the span of a couple weeks. Definitely. I don't get sick that often anymore. And so it was just like really like, not only was it like I had a lot of stuff going on, but like I couldn't get anything done either because I was just so tired and sick. And so it was just like all these different things. But yeah, so I'm excited to talk about other stuff and be back to the podcast. We watched a really good movie. So,
the movie this week is Saltburn.
Saltburn.
If you haven't seen it and want to watch it, you can do that before we talk about it because we do spoilers.
Yeah, full spoilers. We're not holding anything back. Plus, like, analysis, theories, stuff like that. It's all going to be here. So I highly recommend watching it. I think that us talking about it just isn't the same as watching it, but content warning for murder, bodily fluids.
I wonder what it's rated. I can look it up real quick.
A lot of like sexual content, kind of more disturbing sexual content too, and gore, blood, that kind of stuff. 3.1 stars. That's pretty anticipated, I'd say, because it's definitely one of those movies, and I don't want to say either you get it or you don't, but like, because I don't mean like you wouldn't get it. I just it's very odd, and it's definitely one of those where it's like, if you're looking for just a movie that like has a open and shut plot, kind of like, cool, this is awesome, it's definitely not the movie for that. It's super artsy in like a really, really good way. But yeah, I'd say it's probably a pretty divisive movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, should we just jump right in?
Yeah.
Real quick, it came out in 2023, and so it's pretty new as of us making this. It came out in November 2023.
Yeah.
And so it's directed by Emerald Fennell. That name kept coming up a lot. Seemed like that person's project. I don't know anything about them.
Oh, Margot Robbie produced it with her.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. She's doing things.
She's also weird.
Yeah, she's definitely weird, but I've loved what she's done recently.
And with Rotten Tomatoes, why don't they ever tell you what the let's listen to the summary real quick. Distraught by his classmate Oliver's unfortunate living situation, Felix, a rich student, invites him over to his estate. Soon, a series of horrifying events engulfs Felix's family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it takes place in 2006 to 2007.
Yeah.
Which is so weird to consider that that's a period piece now. Like, that's super weird to think about.
15 years ago?
Yeah.
Is that 15?
Yeah. It's really weird to think about that. Almost, God, in 3 years, that'll be 20 years ago. Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, God. Yeah, so...
Is Emerald Fennell a Zoomer? He's like trying to reminisce about...
No, it's a girl. Which is even cooler.
85.
I mean, like, seeing, like, women taking such risks with, like, film like this is super... Like, it's just really refreshing to see that, that's happening, and also that, like, female directors are getting the opportunities to create stuff outside of what's normally expected, and, being celebrated for it. Because, I mean, I think male directors have been celebrated for being, like, fucked up and weird for a really long time. But, female directors, I mean, not only haven't really gotten that much opportunity until, the last, like, 15 to 20 years. But yeah, it's really refreshing to see, like, very weird and, like, fringe kind of disturbing, like, content being, just, it was so, like, beautifully done that, like, the grotesqueness of it, it's like, it feels purposeful. It doesn't just feel like it's there to be disgusting, which we can get into, but you might have different thoughts than I do on that.
Well, you really liked it, and
yeah.
It's really not my cup of tea because, like, I feel like, the plot basically, it's basically an untrustworthy narrator because the main character that you follow the whole movie kind of starts and he's like, I loved this person and it was so great. And it kind of shows him like being gay with him throughout the whole movie and just really loves him and likes him. And turns out at the end, he hated everybody and killed everybody because he hated all of them and wanted to take all their shit. And so it's like, on the base, it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, this is a great movie. Like, I mean, it's like interesting, but it's like the whole point of the plot being like, he killed everyone and took all their stuff, and that's how it ends, kind of, is like, just feels gross to me, you know? It's like, kind of like the bad guy won, you know? So for that reason, it just kind of doesn't rub me the right way. And I feel like, but I feel like I wouldn't say it's the shock value stuff, the grotesque stuff and all that is like overdone, but I would say like it follows the theme of the whole movie with just being like really kind of like fucked up and out there, and like that's what the whole experience is, you know? So it's like, if you want to sign up for that, cool, but like there's not like a silver lining. It's just a fucked up experience. So that's it.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say that it's just a fucked up experience. I think that there's definitely, I mean, which we'll get into, but it definitely has like, there's definitely a purpose to everything that happens, and it's not like it's very reminiscent of like, you know, Greek tragedies, Shakespearean tragedies, that kind of thing, where like there's much more to it, but like everyone dies in the end type thing. But it definitely, there was a lot of symbolism. There was a lot of, but it wasn't like there wasn't like a message from it, which I think the more I think about it, the more I think I really like. Those are the kind of the movies that I gravitate towards a lot. The ones where there isn't really a resolution at the end. It kind of feels like it feels more like an art piece than like a story, which there definitely is like a really interesting story there too. But like I think some people are taking away from this kind of the eat the rich kind of sentiment, and I think that that's boring, and that's not like that's selling the movie really short. I think that there's a lot more layers. There's a lot of like Greek mythology undertones. There's there's the whole like labyrinth and stuff. There's like you know, the party being a Midsummer Night's Dream. Like there's a lot of like symbolism in it and kind of like parallels that you can draw. I think I've only watched it once, and I want to watch it again to kind of, you know, get all of the almost like little Easter eggs and just different stuff, because I think that I feel like the like disgusting parts worked really well, at least for me, because it was almost like, as a viewer, your mind almost kind of goes there before they even do it, and you're like, they would not do that. Like there's no way they would do that. And they're like, yeah, we would, and it's happening right now, and we're making it even grosser than you thought it was going to be, type thing. So I don't know. I think it is a hard sell to be like, you know, you definitely can't look past the gore and the like just kind of gross factor of a lot of it, and I don't think you should, but I definitely think that's a deterrent to watch it. I'd say don't. If the first thing I thought of is like when on the podcast with John, when he was like, yeah, like Cloud Atlas was too, like, I just didn't like the gore and like couldn't handle it. John, do not watch this movie. Like, don't even be curious about it. Just don't watch it. It's anyone who doesn't like blood or just, it's grosser than you could imagine. Like, think of the grossest thing you could think of, and it subverts your expectation of that, which I think is why I found it so like interesting, because I'm like, I would have never thought of that. Who the fuck thinks of this? You know? And
Well, sure, it's like interesting, but I think that's part of the thing about movies like this, where it's like kind of like you were saying about the art piece thing. It's like that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's just a weird art piece, like it, and I think that's like what I'm trying to say about it is like I don't think it's like that deep. I think it's like trying. It's good. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad, but it's like for me, I'm just like, you're just making this statement, and this statement kind of has like a very distinguished taste to it. It's like when I drink Fernet and everyone's like, oh, it's so gross. It's like, that's what this is for movies. It's like, it's not deep. It's not like amazing art. They did a good job at what they were trying to do. And if you're into it, you're going to like it. And if you're not, it's just stay away.
That's your opinion.
That's what I think.
You just said it's not great, and like it's like
yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, because I don't think that like I think people should still like watch it and kind of get their own opinion, because I thought it was I mean, wow, I was really it feels like we're like movies are movieing again for me, and I'm very happy about it, because for a while there, and we've talked about it on the podcast, where it's like, all the remakes, all the stuff, and all that's still happening, but I'm like, these are like the little diamonds where I'm like, thank God, like there are still people out here that, and again, that's my opinion too, but I think that with all the movies that we've watched from this, like actually that were made in 2023, it might be my favorite. And not for any of the gross stuff, not for any of that. Like it just, I mean, visually it was amazing. I mean, it felt, there's so much in my head right now. But yeah, I think it's like, I have a feeling it's one of those movies where it's either like, I think for someone like me, it'll be one that I'm like going back to a lot. And then for other people, they're like, yep, I will never watch that again. And I am like, I'm done. I'm good, But yeah, I wrote down a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about, because I don't know, this is like my kind of movie, and that might be something to consider for the future of this podcast, is like, these are the kind of movies that I'll be probably like bringing to the table. And this was my pick. I knew some of the stuff that was going to happen. I had heard about some of it. I still was super surprised by all of it. I made sure to not watch any clips or anything, but there were certain memes that like I just stumbled on where I was like, fuck, that's about Saltburn. No, I don't want to like see that. But yeah, I knew especially like some of the gross out scenes, and I was like, I think it's still worth a watch. I was like, I'm down. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with all that. What was your favorite part of the movie, and what was your least favorite part?
I mean, I don't know if there's even parts that I would consider like that. I don't know. I mean, you mean like scenes, or just like a thing the movie did that I liked the most and the worst?
Either. I mean, probably scenes. 'Cause I mean, the plot is, it's a weird thing to be like, yeah, this part of the plot was my favorite, because the whole plot is pretty dark. So I wouldn't, I mean, or you can like it because it's dark, but I don't know. You seem like really not down for this conversation right now.
No, I mean, it's fine. I'm trying to think of the stuff. We just watched it last night too, so that's the other thing. Is I'm still trying to process everything. And I guess like the thing that I liked about the movie in general was everything that you don't need a good story for, they got completely perfect. Like all of the way that the film was shot was amazing. the sequencing, the framing, the music, the tone that they would set with every scene, all of it was like absolutely fantastic. Which means a lot to me. It's kind of like it was like reminiscent of Wes Anderson films, with the title card and sometimes some of the vibe that Jordan Peele does. Like, it was really high quality as far as the actual stuff, like, film of the movie is concerned, which was really cool. And I think they did a decent job of having characters and having them interact in a way that, like, kind of like makes you empathize with people, but kind of keeps you second guessing. But that's also something I kind of didn't like about it, was because I felt like, you don't have to like identify with someone or the main character in a movie. For every person that's in a movie, somebody is and isn't going to relate to somebody or whatever. That's fine. But it felt like I was thinking during the movie, I was kind of like, am I supposed to like feel for the main character? Because I kind of hate his guts. Like, he kind of sucks dick. And like, am I supposed to care about these other people? Because I can't relate to them. So like, who am I? Like, I'm just watching things happen. And I think on top of it, the whole movie was just really awkward and really like just made my skin crawl the whole movie. And it was just really uncomfortable to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoyed that part.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like his whole thing. It's like, he's supposed to make your skin crawl.
Well, but real quick, I would also say, are you talking about the main actor?
I mean the whole movie, but yeah, especially him.
Right. Well, I guess like part of like, and I guess you'd have to also agree with me on this, but I feel like Midsummer was like was it in the same position this movie is in for what's his face, whoever did Midsummer and Hereditary. Mm-hmm. And so like I felt like Midsummer was just like not right. It was not there totally. It's like you could tell what he was trying to do, but he just didn't quite get it, and it just felt too gory. It just felt weird. And then Hereditary was like, this is what you were trying to do. This is perfect. And it was like hard to watch, or I didn't like it like for that or whatever, but like it was like a masterpiece. It was great. It was awesome. I feel like this movie is like the Midsummer, and like it's on its way to being like a Hereditary.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'd have to agree with the other two movies in the way I see them. But
I mean, objectively, I'd say Hereditary is a better movie than Midsummer. But I definitely left Midsummer feeling very different than I left this movie. Like with Midsummer, almost immediately I was like, like I couldn't suspend my disbelief enough about the situation, and just kind of it felt really far-fetched, where this feels really real. And I think that's why it's like really disturbing, is because it's like obsession like this happens all the time, and like people do gross shit like that all the time, and you just don't know. Mm-hmm. Whereas Midsummer, it's like this like Swedish cult in the middle of nowhere, like, and we've talked about it, where it's like, if this specific guy, people just went missing around him all the time in these specific families, it's like people would call people, like, yeah, this would not happen. And so there were definitely like, I didn't feel the same way, but I do know what you mean, where it's like, yeah, maybe like for you, this movie feels more like a stepping stone to something better, which is totally understandable. And yeah, I guess for me, like, it's no movie is too artsy, so that's kind of where I'm at a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I always forget the main guy's name. Can we look it up?
Oliver?
No, the like actor's name. Because I think, I mean, he is unbelievable in this movie. Like, so disgusting, yet so charismatic. Barry
Keoghan.
Barry Keoghan. He played like 6 different people in this movie, it felt like, because he acted like a different person with each member of the family, and it was so, I don't even know, it was so jarring to see. But yeah, so just kudos to him, kudos to Jacob Elordi, kudos to everyone in the movie, because it was acting through some of those scenes probably was pretty rough and pretty uncomfortable and just really weird to like sell it, you know. Especially Barry, I mean, being the instigator of all of it, like, but oh man. But is there anything else you wanted to elaborate on before I bring up a couple things?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the only other like main things I want to say about this movie from my perspective is just like, I think part of it is that like it's hard to say what I feel like is exactly off for me, but there's just no, it just doesn't pay off. It just doesn't feel good to watch. Like, I don't know. And I think part of it for me is like I was saying a little bit, like the main character is like, I have no idea if he's actually gay or if he was just manipulating everyone, or like, it just felt like everything was like, I couldn't tell who was telling the truth and what was real and who was doing what. And then at the end it was like, oh yeah, he killed everybody. Okay, cool. I didn't care about him because I didn't know who he was anyway. So it's like, for me, there was no like I just felt like I couldn't anchor on to everybody. Everybody had a secret, so I didn't know who anybody was and this and that. And it just pushed and pulled and manipulated everything so much that I feel like I couldn't grab onto anything. So I'm just left witnessing everything. And like at the very end, it like all made sense. And I'm like, okay. But when it made all the sense, there wasn't like a payoff. So it wasn't like, oh shit, that's crazy. This is like, or like, oh no way. It's just like, it just felt fucked up. And like, I just watched, like, I don't know what happened to me, and I just watched it and it's fucked up. But I'm trying to explain more how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But don't let that dissuade you from liking the movie and telling everything you want to tell about it, because we can totally disagree on this.
Well, I mean, I feel like there was a huge payoff at the end, finding out that he had that plan the whole time. From the nail in the tire to everything. Like, literally none of their friendship was real, which is nuts. Like, that is insane to be that calculated. And to kind of play into this, like, and you see it kind of, I mean, one main thing is how he dresses throughout the whole movie. Like, at the beginning, he's like super nerdy, especially for 2007. Just like, you know, nowadays I feel like there's a lot more like fashion freedom and everything. Like, dress however you want. Like, you know, there's really no like expectations. But back in 2007, dressing like that with those glasses and his jacket and stuff, it's like, yeah, you dressed a certain way at that time, especially at like a college. But so establishing that shot, and who knows if he even actually dressed like that. Like, you just never, like, there's so much about him where you're like, was any of this real? Like, are you actually a nerdy guy? Are you actually like quiet and awkward and weird? Like, are you even any of that stuff? So you can tell with his like progression of how he dresses, because it goes from really, really nerdy at the beginning to very, like, by the time of the midsummer party, very put together in a really nice suit, you know, and he's really like physically fit, which also kind of like makes me think that it's all calculated, because like he never showed off his body until later in the movie. It's almost like he didn't want you to know that he was like jacked. And then like by the end, he's like very fit, very trim, very like in nice clothes. And then by the end of the movie, he's completely naked. So like, he's not hiding anymore. Like, that's just who he is. I think there's just like so much about him where it's just like you don't know what's real. I do think he loved him. Like, I do think that Oliver loved Felix. I don't think that was all made up. And I think that, you know, like how the corny like Tumblr people say like hate and love are like the same thing, you know, like they're really close emotions. You know, you can't hate something if you don't feel strongly towards it, you know. Like, you know, you can just be indifferent, but in order to hate something, you normally had to care about it at some point, or like have care towards something that's going on in the situation. So I do think that he loved him and hated him all at the same time. I think a lot of times with like unrequited love and stuff, people feel that like, you know, you love them so much and you like want to be with them or you want things to work, but then, you know, as time goes on and nothing's happening, there's like that resentment that builds. But let me see. Neat.
She's meeping. She's looking through her notes.
So, I mean, one main thing I think is that, so at the beginning, you see that Oliver is like really enamored by Felix, understandably, and I think Jacob Elordi's like a perfect, like actor to play that role of just like almost like the golden boy, like, you know, he's tall, very handsome, very fit, and even just in Hollywood, he's kind of like the it boy right now. So it's like really kind of interesting to see him in a role that is kind of like in this really uncomfortable movie. But you know, and from the beginning, our expectations of him are subverted because he's actually really nice, like the nicest character in this movie. You know, he's like super caring and super like generous and genuine and everything. And I feel like you're so used to seeing like guys like that in movies being kind of assholes, especially when you find out he's rich. You know, like you expect him to be like entitled and an asshole and stuff like that, and he's just none of those things. And so immediately you're kind of like, what movie am I watching right now? You know, like I thought this guy was gonna be like rude or be like using Oliver in like a very clear way, and I think he was using him. Obviously, like kind of as a lot of people said, like, you know, you're just his new toy, whatever. But I think they both were using each other, which is, you know, kind of sad to think about. I mean, both were like wanting to have control over the other one, and like it slowly like fell apart and everything. But immediately subverting the expectation. But yeah, also that kind of duality of like, you know, at first it seems like Oliver genuinely just has this huge crush on him, and Felix is totally just using him kind of almost like a charity case type thing. Like, I feel bad for this kid and it makes me feel better to like help him out and everything. But then as time goes on, you realize like, oh no, like Oliver was using him the whole time too. And like, you know, when you really kind of break down their characters and kind of, you know, mirror them within each other, it's like, you know, were either of them like both were doing like it's weird. They're not so different in a lot of ways, I think. In the sense of like neither of them, you know, wanted a genuine friendship out of the other one, you know, or anything, you know, even with, you know, Oliver wanting him romantically, it's like when you get to the point of obsession, it's like you don't actually want them. You want this like idea you have of them, you know? But I think so. I mean, there's a lot. I don't really know, like, were there like what I don't know I don't want to just have like a one-sided conversation about this where I'm just like ranting the whole time. So,
I mean, no, I think them mirroring each other and like using each other makes perfect sense, you know?
mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I think this movie is like, I'm just like, yeah, okay, it's kind of fucked up, whatever. I am kind of indifferent about it because I'm like, it's not bad. I definitely didn't think it was like a bad movie, but you know, it's hard. Like, I'm not hyped up about it like you are, you know, because I think, you know, part of it too is like, I think I just like different things out of a movie. So for me, I'm like, you know, for my subjective objectivity, part of me is like, I feel like there's something missing, but I can't put my finger on it. But also, it could just be that it's not my vibe, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely no resolution, and the villain won.
Right.
Like, so I understand.
There is no good guy. It's just this guy.
No,
there is no villain. It's just this fucked up guy. It's doing fucked up shit.
I mean, I think that they were all good and bad. I definitely think. I don't think that Oliver is objectively just like this terrible, terrible person. I think something got him there.
Well, sure. I mean, that's the thing is like, yeah, he's like, I think one thing I thought of when you were just talking is like, why he like reacted the way he did after he killed Oliver's, because like, or after Oliver killed Felix, is like, yeah, because he did have feelings for him. Because I was like, yeah, it was the day after he found out that he's a normal fucking person and his parents aren't alcoholics like he's been saying, and his dad's not fucking dead, you know, all his lies are coming apart or whatever. And so I'm like, is that why he went ahead and killed him? Because he was like, he knows he can't tell anyone, or like, was this premeditated and like way before, you know? And it just like, I don't know. That's part of my problem. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck. I think they're like, for me, there needs to be more. Like, I just feel like the actor did a really good job of being like this like sociopath or whatever we want to call him. But, you know, it's like, I don't know how much to care about him or how much he feels, because I can't trust anything he said or did ever. So like, what am I supposed to feel about this character? Because all I know for sure is that he's a horrible person. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think his last little monologue is probably like the truest part, because he's talking to someone who's essentially dead, like really sick, can't really hear him. I think that that's probably where we can like see it the most. I think when he killed Felix, I don't think that was part of the plan, to be honest. I think once his illusion that he created got shattered, I think he kind of panicked and realized, like, I can't control this situation anymore. And Felix will never, like, I've basically, you know, this situation, he would never say I've ruined it, because he's clearly like a psychopath or a narcissist, you know, kind of like only he really only cares about himself. So I don't think that he actually thought like, I've ruined this, like, what have I done? It's more of like, simply like, I cannot control this person any longer, and I can't live without them either. So like, that was his only option in his mind, which is like really fucked up and bad. But I think that he wanted to be a part of this life so bad. And once his relationship was ruined with Felix, he was like, well, basically, if I can't have you, no one can type mentality. But then also that ruined his chances of like integrating into that life. And I think from there, he had to just like, you know, he couldn't manipulate anymore. He had to just kill them. Because I think he attempted to manipulate his way in at first, to be like, maybe I could just like be part of them. But then you had Farley being like, you're never going to be one of us. And I think that slowly set in of like, oh yeah, I can't just like be here. Like I have to like force my way in, basically.
Yeah.
That was what I took from it.
Yeah, I think just for me, I'm like, is that what he felt though? Because with his monologue, he was kind of like, yeah, I just knew from the beginning I was going to kill everybody. But like he didn't ever really say that. I think that's part of my problem is I'm like, did he want to get in with cool people and this is where it led because he's a sociopath? Did he want to get in with this guy to be in the high society, but then panicked and just kept going because he's a fucking sociopath? Or like, did he want to somehow take over the Saltburn estate from the moment he saw Felix? Like, you know,
I would argue, I don't know if he knew that. I don't know if he knew where Felix lived and all of that. I think it started with his obsession with him and being like, you know, it kind of intertwines of like, did he want to be romantically involved with him or did he want to be him? I think they go really hand in hand. Of like, did he, because it seems like he's in love with him, but also like he wants to like be him. And like, you know, after he dies, he's like wearing his aftershave and like, you know, he wants just all of that. I do think it started more with an obsession for him. And then I think once he was at the estate, it was just kind of like, I mean, I don't think we can really know 100% like why he did all of that, but I do think that it started just with him being obsessed with Felix, and then it kind of devolved over time. I think it was, I don't know. I think, so one part that I think is probably like important with this conversation is how the only way, which is another way to kind of subvert expectations, is like they have this kind of awkward guy who's like made fun of at school and stuff come to this estate and basically manipulate people sexually, which is like a weird way to manipulate people that you don't really see, especially in movies. I'm sure it happens a lot, but like that's a pretty ballsy way to manipulate people.
Well, and that's one thing I also
odd.
didn't understand is the guy who like seemingly hates his guts, he like goes into his room and jerks him off until he agrees to like do what he wants. I'm like, what is going on? No one can jerk me into following along with your fucked up sociopathic ways. Like,
well,
what was that scene about?
Well, that's the thing is he's pretty much like a master manipulator. And so I think there's like,
is it like the sound of his voice? Like no one's hopping on me in bed in the middle of the night and fucking.
No, that's like why
you're getting fucking the shit kicked out of you. Get out of here, dude. Like you're not jumping on me and jerking me off.
Well, so I think part of it is Farley is either bi or gay. There definitely was almost this chemistry between them. It was like really weird, and it was especially established in the scene at the karaoke thing where they're like laying together and they're like this close to each other's faces, like talking about stuff. It seemed like the one moment where they really like, you know, were a little bit more genuine, but then immediately Farley like, you know, makes him sing that karaoke song about like pay my rent, you know, whatever, like really embarrassing. And so I think that I think he was again trying to like, it's really weird, and I think that's why it's kind of like, you know, that's almost like that's like the final straw of like, this guy is just like how is he manipulating these people so well? Because with Felix's mom, it was more of like he just called her really like attractive, and she was like, oh my god, like stop it. And then with Venetia, the sister, like she already was like kind of into him and like, you know, kind of was like, oh hey, like I'm just here. And so it was like that felt a little bit more like, realistic and kind of like, oh, she already was like advancing towards him and everything. And then I think that with Farley, it's almost like this like last straw of like, he can literally just manipulate anyone. Like, holy shit. Like, this guy who's hated him from the beginning of the movie, told him he's never going to fit in, he's never going to belong, whatever. It's like is so confident about what he's doing that like can almost make anyone buy into it. And maybe that's just because I've been kind of on this like cult kick where I'm like researching a lot of cults and like just really like less so interested about the actions of the cult, but interested in like how people get manipulated into cults and like how these like seemingly lackluster people can make people think that they're God and like fall in love with them and like all this stuff. And so I don't think we can even think about it practically of like, what if that happened to me? Like, how would I respond? I would like kick the shit out of him. It's like, I think it's more of showing like, no, this guy literally like, there's just, because some people are just that like manipulative. And when you're around people who like, part of the whole cult manipulation is like breaking down your psyche and like, confronting you with your biggest like fears and vulnerabilities. And he did that with all of them. And so it's like, he would like break them down and then kind of come in like this, like very snake-like, very spider-like, like very just like predatory, in a really creepy way. And so I feel like that scene was more so to establish like he's manipulating the people that we never thought he could manipulate, because like Farley from the beginning was like, you're fucked up and I know you're fucked up and there's something about you. Like, I don't buy in. Like, you don't belong. Go back to whatever doll house you came out of, like whatever doll factory, like just being, like, and to show that like, no, he got him too. The one guy where we were like, maybe he'll expose who Oliver really is. Like, nope, he got him too. And then he got him kicked out.
Did you know Oliver was like the bad guy from the beginning?
I think.
Or from like hearing about stuff?
No, I did not know that. Okay. I knew what like some of the like gross scenes, but I had no idea who was in them. I didn't know what actor was like doing those things. But no, I think I figured it out. I didn't know the extent, but I think he gets really confident all of a sudden with Felix's mom. Like he like switched to like hitting on her almost in that scene where they were alone, and he was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, like so clearly like manipulating her, but she was like, no, you're right. Like she was like lying and like, just like but I think definitely, I think, I don't know. It's like, it kind of all just kind of devolves, but after the scene with, Venetia, everyone calls it the vampire scene, I've learned, because he's like, I'm a vampire. Yeah, basically he oh god, it's even uncomfortable to like describe.
Yeah, I'm just like, why? That's the thing, is a lot of these things like with the scene with the other brother, I'm like, I get like he manipulated the guy we thought he could manipulate, but just the scene is so weak. Like, it's just like knowing that that's what that scene's trying to convey makes sense. The scene doesn't make sense to me. Does that make sense?
So the reason that he did that is so that he could get into Farley's room to put incriminating evidence on his phone to get him kicked out. So that's why he was in there. Yeah. And that's why he basically wanted to build enough trust with him to be like, oh, maybe he'll like let me stay in his room, for a little bit for me to be able to do this. Or like maybe wait till he falls asleep and then I can do it. Because yeah, it wasn't just for the sake of like, can I manipulate this guy? It was like, no, fuck this guy. I need to get him kicked out. And it seems like the only way he knows how to manipulate people is through sex and like just desire and stuff like that. So I think that's the only way like he could, You know, because Farley would never just let him in his room to chill. You know, he's like, I have to like almost distract him with this really like weird move, you know, like very unpredictable move to get him, you know, distracted enough to, you know, get on his phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. But yeah, after the scene with Venetia, with the period blood and all of that, that the movie took a shift. That was probably the first scene where it was like really like, not because the bathtub scene happened before that, but that was much more like creepy obsession with this, like with Felix, like, ew, that's so gross, like you're obsessed with him enough to do that, like that's nasty. But then with Venetia it was like, oh, this isn't just about Felix, you know. Like and when he's not around Felix, he's like this completely different person. Like it was really, really creepy. But yeah.
I mean, I really just don't like this movie. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, I just don't like it.
Okay.
It's just, for me, I'm just like, why? Like, I just don't like it. I'm like, let's find out this kid's a psychopath and kills everybody. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
All right.
But, you know.
Okay. Well, yeah. Cool.
That's just how I feel.
That's fair. It's all good. I don't really want to elaborate too much then.
Well, you should still be able to talk about it.
Well, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm just
Did you like the fact that it felt like you didn't know what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of movie that I really enjoy. I don't watch movies to have a resolution. Or even like I definitely don't watch movies to make me feel good.
Yeah.
Like I don't really like movies like that. That's probably why I liked Oppenheimer more too. Because it did end really like, wow, that like this is like it was a shitty ending. Like, and not in the way of like it was done shittily. It was like, no, this is a shitty ending, and like this is like how it is right now. Like this is what happened, and this is where we're at in the world because of this event. I like the idea of things just kind of happening. And I know we talked about that with Oppenheimer. You were like, I felt like I was watching a movie trailer the whole time because things just kind of kept happening, but there was no like reason, or, you know, kind of like how trailers show you the highlights in order to get you hooked type things. Like I totally know what you meant by that. But I just didn't feel that way about it. Because I'm like, yeah, show me everything. I love the feeling of being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't get frustrated by that at all.
So like for 4 hours, you'd want to watch a movie where you like don't know what happens and there's no ending.
That's not what I said. No.
I'm trying to understand, but that's what it feels like, kind of, because you're like, I don't need to have a resolution, and it doesn't have to make sense.
I mean,
so like, what parts of that do you like specifically like latch onto? You know,
that it's up to interpretation. That's a big one. Where it's like, why did Oliver do that? I don't like knowing why. Like, I mean, I think to an extent you can infer why, and he does say some stuff, but my least favorite thing in movies is when things are just completely broken down for you. I'm like, I don't really like, I don't like that. I feel like it's kind of like, you know, when we talk about like, you know, whatever your brain makes up is scarier than anything a movie can show you, you know? So in like the beginning of a horror movie, when there's some entity like causing shit to happen, your brain goes like, holy shit, what is this thing? Oh my God. And then you find out, like, when you get your answer, you're like, oh, okay, well, that's not as scary as I thought it would be. So I'm kind of like let down. And I think that's why scary movies a lot of times have such terrible ratings, because they're like, it's always like, you are always going to be disappointed because your imagination will always come up with something better. And so in that sense, not always, because I also love movies where it's like, you know, plot twists and kind of like the whodunit kind of stuff and all of that. But again, those movies have that aspect, or shows or whatever have that aspect for so long of like, what is happening? You know? I enjoy that. I of course I want movies to like have an ending and like some sort of resolution. You know, I don't just want them to like cut off at a random place or whatever. But I think that something like Saltburn's ending leaves a lot to interpret, a lot to think about. I'm trying to think of other movies that I like that are kind of in the same vein to maybe like make it make more sense. Obviously Oppenheimer with kind of the almost I like the ambiguous kind of moral stance that you can take on it, of like, you know, what was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? You know, why do I kind of, because a lot of people, you know, that I kind of was reading some in like a subreddit today, like where people were like, is it bad that I like kind of was happy for Oliver in the end? And it's like, I like stuff like that where like the movie's not telling you how to feel about this person. They're like presenting you with a lot of, especially in this, like in Saltburn, like really messed up stuff that they're doing, but you can't help but feel like a normal sane person wouldn't do this. Like, what's going on here? And they don't explain it. They don't say like what I really like is they don't explain anything about his childhood. They introduce you to his parents once and they seem really great, but the one thing I noticed was that they're really religious, and so I'm like, does that have something to do with this? But they don't break it down. They're not like, he was in an insane asylum for his entire childhood, and then he broke out, and then he did this, and then he did that, and that's how we got here. And like, it's not like that inner monologue of like, I've had this plan the whole time, and like, you know, it shows you that he had it planned the whole time, but it doesn't tell you why.
See,
and I think I just really enjoy that.
This is the whole difference between the male and the female psychology, and this is the reason why girls love true crime and shit so much. Because, like, you know, I watch enough true crime, I'm ready to go fucking kill somebody because I'm so fucking mad. But girls just, like, love thinking about, like, the social implications and the interweb of, like, what it meant and what they were thinking when it was all going on. It's the same thing as the show we watched, where the guy was like, don't give this guy meaning. It's just fucked up.
Murder at the end
and
of the world.
And the girl's like, well, do you think he was thinking about him right when you? And he's like, shut the fuck up. This is the same situation right now.
It's more than that.
Well, you get what I'm saying. It's along the lines of, you don't, like, for me, I'm like, none of it makes logical sense because my brain's logical. And the stuff that does makes me mad because he's a sociopath and it's just all fucked up. But for you like thinking about, what were these people's motivations? What were they thinking about when this was happening? And where was this all going? And I can't believe he manipulated him like this. And what do you have to be to do that? And where did this go in the end? And I'm like, fuck this guy. I want to fucking kill him.
Well, okay. I do agree that is a more feminine trait, but I think I just want to clarify, there's plenty of men out there that also like love this movie for the same reason I do, and like do kind of do that.
Right, but I'm just saying,
I understand like it's more of a feminine trait.
Line of not all only women are into true crime and stuff like that. But I'm just saying this is more along those lines of like, the intrigue is its grotesque darkness that's really convoluted. Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's more like, so we won't spoil anything for Murder at the End of the World, but highly recommend watching that show. It's on Hulu. It's really good. But at the very end, in like the last episode or whatever, you know, just the two main characters are talking about, you know, this murderer that they were hunting, basically. And like, you know, she's very detached from it. She's very like, you know, I wonder what he was thinking at this point, and like, you know, but she's not saying it in the sense of like, I just really resonated with it because I feel like as myself, but also I think just a lot of like us girls can like compartmentalize really well, and like, you know, kind of, I don't even, it's really hard to explain, kind of like you explaining why you like feel kind of, you know, it not super happy with the movie and everything. Like, I can feel all of those emotions all at once. Like, I'm angry at him for doing that stuff. I'm like, that's fucked up, and he didn't, like, Felix did not have to die. Like, fuck you, you fucking monster. But at the same time, I can feel 100 other emotions about it. And I know that, like, from what I'm getting is you're saying, like, the one that, like, the strongest emotion is the one that, like, is hard to not feel, like, from a situation like that, or, like, something with true crime. Like, and again, that's just me, but, like, yeah, in that show, her partner, he's nothing. Like, why are you thinking about him like this? He's boring. He's just every other serial killer out there. Like, why do you care about that? And it's like, I don't know if I wouldn't even say, I don't know if she cares about it. I think that it's just in, like, the nature of, especially, like, really, I tend to just, like, think about shit even though I don't really need to. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, I like running through all the different, like, emotions and stuff. I don't really know how to explain it. But it's not, I don't think that, I don't think it's, like, that, I don't know if I would, like, say it as, like, women just, or, like, just people watch this stuff because of the darkness of it. I feel like it's, I don't know. I'm not really sure where to go from there.
Yeah, I think it just makes you think, and you find it really interesting.
Yeah, I like thought experiments. I like thinking about stuff even when I don't have to think about stuff. I like, I there's plenty of times in my life I've been told, like, why are you thinking about that? It hasn't happened yet. I'm like, because I think about everything and I love thinking about stuff. Or, like, you're reading too much into this movie, or you're reading too much into this piece of art or whatever. And it's like, no, I'm not. There's no such thing as reading into it too much. It's like, like, you can read into it as little or as much as you would like. And just because some people, like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
I mean, I feel bad. I'm not trying to, like, I'm not going to say I like it, but I don't want you to not want to talk about it or not feel like you're allowed to like it.
Oh, I don't feel that. I like it a lot, and I feel perfectly okay liking it. It's just, like, I don't, like, just, I mean, I'm sure if it was the other way around, you wouldn't just want to be, like, gushing over a movie that I was like, no, I fucking hated that.
I don't know. I might.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, is there anything else you really wanted to say about it?
I mean, yeah, there's a bunch, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, just go for it.
I don't really want to. I mean, there was, like, lots of mythological undertones, which I thought was a really interesting thing. It's a gothic tragedy set in 2007, which is super weird to put it in 2007, but it works. The really kind of artistic and, like, traditional English, manner, again, gothic vibe, kind of just like that classical style mixed with the music that was popular in 2007 is just such a weird combination of things. But it works, and I, like, really, really enjoy it. Yeah, it feels like a Shakespearean, like, tragedy while being, like, this modern story at the same time, which I think is really cool. And I think that's why, like, something like Romeo and Juliet I enjoy so much, because at the end of the day, it is not a fulfilling story. It's really fucking sad. There's really no resolution by the end. But it's like it's very, I don't know. Maybe it's because I like how true to life stories like that are, because that's how everything goes. It's like things don't end in a super tied up, neat bow way ever.
What was the other one you were talking about?
Romeo and Juliet.
But they actually cared about each other, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but they knew each other for like 2 days. So it was supposed to be kind of like this movie that's like a is it called a black comedy? I think it's called a black comedy, which is like really dark comedy. Mm-hmm. It's a dark comedy, kind of almost satirical of these people. Like it's mocking them at the same time that it's this really serious story, and that's how Romeo and Juliet is originally supposed to be. It's not supposed to be just a tragedy. It's supposed to be like a satire as well. Like, look at these two fucking kids. Like they've known each other for 2 days and they're killing themselves over each other, because it's like kind of that the duality of like, you know, the tragedy and the satire. They're very, I mean, it's why, like, you know, the like general symbol for theater is like the mask with the frown and the crying and the like super big grin. It's because they go together. Like they're basic, you know, grief and joy are, again, super similar as well. But yeah, I don't know. I just haven't seen a movie like it in a long time, and especially one that's come out recently. And so I really enjoyed it. And the colors were great. I think especially just the blue and the red back and forth, you know, two really opposite colors. Another thing I had written down is that, you know, through the whole movie, like Felix starts off, like, so when you first meet Felix, he seems like this like grown man, like, whereas Oliver is kind of this like meek boy that, like, you know, doesn't have a lot of friends, you know, whatever, whereas Felix is like out partying, he's drinking, he has plenty of hookups with women, like he seems very grown up, you know, and not in like a good way, but he's doing a lot of grown up things, whereas, you know, Oliver's kind of like, me, I'm a little nerd, or so we think. And then by the end of the movie, or by the end of, I think by the time Felix dies, it's pretty clear that like Felix is like just a kid, whereas because Oliver is so manipulative and so in this like dark place, he is grown. Like, he is responsible for every single thing he's done. But by the end, Felix seems very boy-like and like very innocent and like kind and everything. He did some fucked up stuff, but it almost makes it feel like he's more innocent and like ignorant and naive, because he thought it was a good idea to bring Oliver to his family home, thinking, like, under the impression that his mom was an alcoholic and his dad passed and he did not want to see them. Like, that is the most like boundary crossing thing that you could do as a friend. Like, you don't force your friend to confront their trauma. Again, because at the time, Felix thought it was completely real. Like, he thought that, you know, Oliver had this terrible home life, and still he was like, let's go visit him on your birthday. You know, like, even though Oliver was like, please, no, like, please. And I know it was a story device. I know why it happened and everything, but like, it really went to show, like, yeah, Felix is like clueless. Like, he's either careless or clueless or probably both. But like, again, just kind of feeding into that like childlike nature of like, you know, that mentality that kids have of like, if you just put people together in a room, they'll work it out, you know? It's like, no, that's like not the right thing to do. But
artsy true crime. That's what this movie is. It's just supposed to be kind of like artsy true crime.
Okay.
It's like if you watch the YouTube true crime video with the voiceover, and they're like, this person somehow got to know this person, and then and then it always jumps, and then they're like, and then this thing happened. This is like, shows you exactly how it would happen. It's just like a true crime movie.
Okay.
That's what I'm going with.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, if you end up watching Saltburn, let us know how you feel about it. We didn't check the emails. I just thought of that if we wanted to do that.
We can try. The YouTube has been crashing out the last couple times I opened it, or the Chrome has been like crashing out. I don't know why.
Oh, John.
Do you want to read it?
Aw. So in one of our podcasts, I think the last one or something, I mentioned performing and stuff. And John replied, Tim's brother, said, hey friends, Tori was mentioning on the podcast that she might be interested in doing musicals. She might be interested to know that a lot of people enjoy doing musical theater as a hobby through community theater. Bree, his wife, has been in several shows this way, and while it is a lot of work, it's really fun too. It would probably be a great way for her to get her feet in the door and test it out and see if she's interested in pursuing it further. Aw, thanks, John. Yeah, I've thought about that. I'm kind of like, you're right, it is a lot of work, and I'm just kind of like, do I want to put in that much work right now? Because at least like with theater when you were in school, it's like, oh, it's just like rehearsals after school, and so you're like already there and stuff. But it's like, if I had to go from my like full-time job and be like, gotta go rehearse this musical, I would quit. So yeah, I definitely, I've thought about that, and yeah, I'm glad to hear that Bree has done that before. I know that it can be a lot of fun for sure, especially without the like high school drama of it all. No pun intended, but so much of like high school and middle school theater is just like so much just like other stuff. It's like, because it's just high school part 2, you know, but with all the really dramatic kids. And so, yeah, I'm sure it'd be nice to do it with adults.
He also said we should unsubscribe from TikTok emails, which
yeah, we should do that.
is a good idea because we're just unsubscribe.
Yeah.
We have the app. We could just unsubscribe from all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye. All right. Yeah. We're done. We're out. Okay. And that was the only real email.
Yep.
From somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you were talking about acting and doing stuff like that. So.
Yeah. I was.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not like not down to change my mind on this movie. Like, I'm very open to change my mind on this movie, and like I could see why you like it. First of all,
I can see why you don't like it,
because I'm really rolling with the true crime art. You know, this is true crime art, and it makes perfect sense to me. I don't know if anyone else would feel that way if I said that about this movie, and people are really into that as like an interesting thing or as a hobby or as whatever. And of course there's, you know, the right way to do it, because, you know, it can be a weird subject or whatever. But and like I said, I did think it was like shot and filmed very well and put together very well. And there were certain cues, like, you know, they had the pig at the party right before he killed Felix, like before he killed his first person. You know, there's like little things that they did that were, you know, good storytelling or good movie making and all that. But for me, there's something missing. It's not just that it was like grotesque or whatever, because I mean, Hereditary is probably worse in certain ways, and I still like that movie way better. There's just something missing for me personally, but I would give it a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Saltburn gets a 4 out of 10 for me. What are you going to do? You're going to do John's 4 or 12-point system, your grade school system, or the 10-point system?
I like my grade system still, but I'll do John's as well, since you did the 1 out of 10. I'd say this gets a An A minus. I really enjoyed it. I do feel like there were a couple things that might have not been. There's definitely like I don't think it was like a perfect 100% or whatever. But there was enough to it that I really enjoyed. And I think there's just like it's definitely worth multiple watches for me at least. So yeah, and then on the 12 point scale, probably a.
Well, first you gotta figure out if it's 1 out of 4.
Right. I'd say it's 4 out of 4.
Okay, so is it a 10 or 11 or a 12?
It is a. I mean, I really liked this movie. Probably like an 11 or 10. Yeah, because as I'm saying that, I'm like, I don't think I would change anything about the movie. Some people have beef with the ending, I've heard. Like the last couple minutes, they're like ruined the movie for them.
When he was in the palace or what?
I think just his whole plan kind of being exposed and him. I think that I think maybe people wished it would have just ended before he went back. However many years later.
Well, but that's the whole point.
Yeah, I know.
That's the whole point of the movie.
Yeah. I know.
That's weird. That's weird beef. Even I don't have that beef.
I don't really know. Yeah, the ending for me, I felt like was. It was nice. It was like you could interpret it in quite a few different ways if you wanted to. I mean, I don't think it was. Definitely wasn't bad. And yeah. But yeah, for me, I don't really think there's much I would change or anything. And I loved the casting. Yeah, really, 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 really good.
Mm-hmm.
For me.
So what do you think, 10 or 11? You can just stick with the A minus if you want.
Yeah, I like A minus and like maybe 10 out of 12.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, we don't always have to agree. If you watched it, leave a comment. If you're on YouTube, email us, stucktogetherpod@gmail.com, what you thought. It's got to be kind of decent art because of the wild sway in reviews. That's usually when you know that it's got something for sure. I'm not going to say it doesn't for sure.
Yeah.
There's something there, but I still just think it's like, it's not its final form of this director or whatever they're trying to do,
Yeah, I'd say if you're... So, one of my other favorite movies is The Talented Mr. Ripley, and that's like really close to this story with the whole obsession stuff, really creepy. Is he gay? Is he not? Type energy of like, why is he obsessed? And just so much in that movie is really good. So if you really like Saltburn and you want more, I'd recommend that. It has Matt Damon, Jude Law, and Gwyneth Paltrow, and they're all really, really good. And so I'd say like it has a similar plot to Talented Mr. Ripley, and then I'd say probably like a similar aesthetic and like kind of vibe of like the 1999 Romeo and Juliet with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, where it's very like flashy and very fast paced, just kind of like throws you in there, and it's also really kind of like experimental with like the art style and stuff. I'd say like it's kind of a mix of those two. So like really disturbing, like because I was telling Tim with Talented Mr. Ripley, I've tried to show it to a couple people, and like halfway through they're like, yeah, I don't want to watch this anymore. Because it is really creepy. And it's Matt Damon playing a creepy dude, which is like weird to see. So. Well,
I mean, Matt Damon's just creepy, so.
I don't think he's creepy. I
don't either. It just. No, but yeah, I want to watch that one with you so we can see if I just don't like that style, or if I don't like, or if there really is something about this movie that really just didn't click with me.
Yeah.
Because knowing how much you like it, I mean, it's not like I don't want to not like it, but
no, well, I mean, like how you told me, like you don't want me to like not feel good with not liking it, or with liking it. Like, I don't want you to feel bad about like not liking it. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep on going, and once again, we're really sorry for all of the breaks. We don't plan on like shutting down the podcast or anything permanently, but it might be a little more intermittent. And so because we got a lot of stuff coming up too.
Yeah.
So we're so glad to talk to everybody on this podcast. If you got ideas for movies or anything you want us to watch, let us know. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.